Hey, we're back. It's Chris Wagner from New Line here at the Met 360 studio. Media and entertainment and technology all coming together. And my guest for this next segment is Tom Mall, who is the technical solution architect at a small company called Sky UK.
Hi, Chris.
Pretty big. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
And Tom and I want to have a conversation about how Sky UK is building scalable and resilient OTT services at Sky. And maybe we'll kick it off and you can start and I'll ask some questions.
Sure. Okay. So the most important thing to our customers and to Sky is to make sure that we're delivering a consistently good experience across all of our different OTT services. So the most important thing is that we can guarantee that we can deliver that stream to the user and the user is able to fully consume that content and enjoy it without being interrupted by any kind of issues that we might be having anywhere within our architecture.
Right. And what are some of the key ingredients of that you think are kind of foundations to that?
Sure. So it basically comes down to sort of breaking down the journeys step by step and then making
the workflow video journey.
That's right, yeah, and also the actual journeys of getting the user from turning on the device and discovering content through authentication, entitlement and playout, taking each of those steps and making sure that we are as resilient as we can be in each of those individually to then get a really resilient service end to end.
And it's hard, right? Because you have all these different devices that are out there, different browsers, different video formats, or have you kind of standardized on one format?
No, so we are using multiple different DRM technologies, multiple different types, across lots and lots of different devices. We support over 80 different consumer devices today.
Wow.
So you're right, there are some challenges there, making sure that we can be as resilient with every possible DRM streaming technology possible.
And the OTT services that Sky has in market now, are they direct-to-consumer pay-for services? Are they authenticated through a pay TV system of yours?
Yes, it's a bit of a combination. We've got several propositions. Quite a lot of them are tied to our Sky brand, so they're kind of add-on services for users who subscribe to Sky. Right. And then we've also got Now TV, which is a completely standalone service in the UK and across Europe now as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about the content that's in maybe Now TV would be great.
Sure, yeah. So on Now TV, we offer all sorts of really great movie content and entertainment content. So really big hit shows like Game of Thrones and Westworld, that sort of stuff.
I'm a Game of Thrones guy.
Are you? And
can't get enough of that.
And also good kids entertainment content as well, and then linear sports as well.
And that's pan-European.
It is. We're rolling it out to lots of different European territories at the moment.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's a month-to-month subscription, or is it pay-per-view? Some combination?
So on Now TV, it's month by month, yeah, and you can cancel at any time. Our sports proposition is slightly different in that we sell that in sort of day passes or week passes, so you can buy literally just a day's worth of access to watch your favourite football match or
more of a digital ticket, so to speak.
Yeah, that's right.
On the sports side.
Yeah.
And what about changing video formats like 4K and Ultra HD, or investigating some of those?
Sure, yeah, definitely. I can't say too much, but obviously Sky has already gone into serving some 4K content over satellite delivery on Sky Q, but it's probably something that would come to OTT in due course.
Right. So when you say resilient and scalable, are those just building kind of backup facilities and failover processes?
Yeah, to an extent, and also being really, really smart and innovative in the way in which we actually deliver those services in the way that we integrate our clients with the server. One of the key points in the topic that I spoke about in my talk earlier today was making sure that we can pass as much user state as possible between the client and the server, so that we don't have to make quite so many interactions on the back end, so we really minimize those number of hard dependencies that we have.
Give me an example of that user space.
So for example, with the user's entitlement, rather than needing to make a database query, we actually have the client pass us a trusted token with those entitlements within it. So it means that we don't have that hard dependency on the entitlement service at the point of playout, and so our overall availability increases because we don't have that dependency anymore.
Right. And you guys have a particular focus on latency and things like that?
Not so much latency. It's more about our scalability and our availability.
So being able to scale to a peak concurrent.
Definitely, particularly with live events. So when we see big sporting games or when we see shows like Game of Thrones premiere on Now TV, we see really, really big significant spikes in traffic.
You able to say any of the numbers? Or?
Not exact numbers, but I can say that we can handle about, we see spikes of about 125 times our regular load.
For the live events.
For live events. So Game of Thrones, for example, last year aired at 9 p.m. and in a few minutes before 9 p.m. and a few minutes after 9 p.m. we saw a massive spike in load that was about 125 times our regular load.
Wow.
So there's some significant challenges there.
And on the other thing I was going to talk about in terms of content protection, you talked about encryption and multi-DRM. Are you doing any kind of watermarking or things like that for piracy?
It is something that we're looking at the moment, definitely. One of the big concerns is people restreaming, retransmission. So absolutely, we're looking at watermarking solutions to make sure that we can combat that threat.
That's one of the things we've done with the UFC that has kind of this digital ticket. It's a $60 digital ticket, and they have a lot of retransmission issues. So the watermark actually has become very useful for the retransmission because you can turn off the stream right like that, and it takes everybody behind it down, and then you can follow through with whatever actions you want to take.
Yeah, so we're following that exact same pattern as well. That's the sort of thing we're looking to implement next.
And how about on the UI UX side? Do you use is that all done by Sky, or do you have?
It's primarily in-house. Yeah, we build a lot of our own clients. Where possible, we're aligning our technologies so that we can reuse the same UI and UX across multiple different device types. We have outsourced a few apps in our past, but we're generally slowly bringing those back in-house to have full control over that experience and making sure that we can give a really good quality service to our customers.
And is it a Sky player or is it a standard player that's the video player?
Again, it's a combination depending on the device type. Some of the devices give us lots of flexibility, so we can use the standard player and just customize it to our demands.
Right, like a standard HLS player or what have you.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But in other cases, we do have our own player technologies as well.
Any interactive features in that player at all? Replay, slow motion, picture-in-picture?
Not picture-in-picture. We do have some live pause functionality on our top-range box on Now TV. So a user can actually pause live streaming on OTT and then rewind and fast-forward through that content as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And at the conference, at least this year, there's been a lot of discussion around data, personalization, and how to ingest metadata and tags, and that becomes kind of the ingredients for curating content that you're interested in seeing. Any thoughts on that with Sky?
A really hot topic at Sky, definitely. Everything we're doing now is driving towards personalization. A few years ago, we were 100% editorial. Everything that was put in front of a customer was decided by an editorial team within Sky. And now more and more of that content is being personalized for each individual user.
Yeah, it's like you cannot have too many tags, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So personalized recommendations is a really hot topic at the moment, and also getting sort of a completely segmented experience based on your general interests and your product holdings.
Yeah, here at the show, we've had some discussions with some of the broadcasters about leveraging closed caption in their broadcast feeds and using that closed caption feed through auto tagging to create all these tags. There's some QC work that has to go into reviewing what comes out of the auto tagger, but then all that gets ingested back in to really fill up the amount of tags that you could potentially have for search, which makes personalization really cool.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you guys follow a closed caption standard for your linear channels?
We have recently implemented closed captions on a few of our linear streams yet.
And there's linear and VOD and live, right? Those are the three kind of buckets of content that you would have? Not many linears?
Yeah, so we would kind of term... So when I say linear streaming, I guess I'm talking about the streaming of channel, which is an EPG. It could either be scheduled programming or it could be an actual live event, such as a football match or a boxing game, sort of thing.
And some of the other broadcasters have talked about how they use their EPG schedule to actually create their VOD libraries.
Right.
When they play it out, and then they use the schedule to automate the clipping and cutting of the titles, and then they go back into a VOD, similar thing?
Yeah. So all of our VOD catalog is linked to our linear schedules and vice versa. So it gives the user complete control. We've got all sorts of features, like if you tune into a program partway through, then we'll put a little prompt on the screen that says, actually, would you rather pick this up on a piece of VOD content and watch it from the beginning, and that sort of thing. So we're definitely trying to make that as a rich experience as possible for our users.
Sounds very cool. I got to get over to the UK and watch some of this stuff.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Come on over.
Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Stay tuned for our next segment here at the Met 360 studio.
CEO and founder of a company called Del Mondo, and we are a social video analytics company and creative studio. We created the first analytics ever for Snapchat in 2014, and we right now are the only source of second-by-second real-time analytics for Facebook video and Facebook Live.
Excellent. So speaking of live, so I should back up. What are we doing here? So the point of this chat and the reason we brought all these amazing people here together today is to talk about what's the future of live streaming, right? A lot of people talk about it. Some people are doing it, not everybody just yet. But how do you succeed in this live streaming economy? From where we sit, what we're seeing is it's now an attention economy, right? Everybody has infinite ways to distract themselves. There's all kinds of things that are competing for your attention, but also the attention of your clients. So from the perspective of live streaming, how do we see live streaming developing? How do you develop audiences? How do you distribute your live stream so that you're getting the right audience to listen in and tune in and engage with your content? And then how do you succeed in the attention economy? What's going to be coming down the road? So those are some of the topics we're going to discuss today. From the events perspective, Hillary, what are you guys seeing work in live streaming now? Like what you have a list of clients, they've been working with you for a long time. What kind of stuff are you guys seeing work in the live streaming space?
Yeah, so we pretty much all of our clients at one point or another are incorporating live streaming into their virtual experience. For a long time, it was all about the on-demand content, and at least if that content was preserved and recorded and made available after the event, then that was success to them. But as live streaming's become more accessible for the end users and something that they can rely on more, they're definitely starting to incorporate that into the experience. And typically what we see is sort of the high-end sessions that they hone in on, so such as the keynote sessions, general sessions, something with content that they know is going to drive a lot of attention to the event itself because they're using it as a way and a mechanism to bring the audience in and get them engaged. And so that's where we've seen it introduced. We do have some customers that will do live streaming across practically the entire event, and that's more of kind of a training experience where they just want those virtual end users to be able to access all the content and engage.
Interesting. So you've really seen the industry move away from just production into I want to distribute this out to the world. I want to get lots and lots of people to view it, not just the people that are actually in the room.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Aaron, what are you seeing working well in the live streaming space from the sort of agency perspective?
Yeah, well, coming from the branded entertainment perspective, I would say it's always about capturing and being part of those moments, right?
Yeah.
Those moments that are exciting, that you want your brand to be surrounded by, that you want the customers to kind of engage with. But there are some physical constraints to that to some degree because you're limited to the space that you're physically in. And what live streaming actually does is it provides an opportunity to make those moments scalable and to make sure that people outside of that physical space can enjoy and participate and can kind of feel a part of what the brand message is or what the brand experience is. So we're finding more and more opportunities to incorporate that into the existing creative that we're doing, whether it's a live event or an event that's getting ready to promote a television series of content that we're doing.
Interesting. Okay, those special moments. Does anything get lost in translation with live streaming when you're not physically in the room, but you're trying to recreate that magic? Yeah,
listen, certainly there is, there's value to being in the room and to being a part of the experience physically. But it's the next evolution of how we kind of move those experiences on. If you look at, for example, GoPro, they helped, from a technology standpoint, give a point of view of an experience from a one-on-one point of view, from a user point of view that, this is how I'm experiencing this moment. But if you look at kind of the next evolution of it, I think it's going to be how do you take VR and give people an opportunity to kind of step into this world that you've created that may physically not be there, but they are feeling that energy and that excitement there. So I do think it's not the exact same, but it's certainly
for sure
adding something to it.
Greg, what are you seeing work really well for your clients in live streaming? You guys only do live.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of the techie approach here.
Right.
So what works best in live streaming has nothing to do with the technology. It has to do with everything Hillary and you've just said. It's creating the experience. It's creating the outreach to customers to gain their attention and hold on to them. Virtual reality. I'll bring this up a little different than what we talked about. But virtual reality, for example, I don't think it's going to be immersive for people as much as it is keep them from being distracted from the guy next to them, their coworker who hollers across an office, and these open office concepts we have these days, and lets people in their homes not get distracted by the little things that are always sitting on your desktop. So it isn't about the technology, it is all about getting attention of people and promoting and reaching your audience and basically turning broadcasters into marketers so that they can reach that audience.
That's an interesting perspective because, you know, from a technology perspective or a platform perspective, sometimes broadcasters are the gear guys, the gear ladies, right? So how do you do that? How do you educate them to become marketers so that they can actually get people to watch their live stream and make it pay off?
That's very difficult. That's very difficult. It's from a technology viewpoint, it's very difficult to try to teach our customers, the broadcasters, who frequently are chief engineer or they're the IT digital media person, to teach them how to produce something. They know how to produce something like this panel that can present well out to the public. But they don't know how necessarily to live stream, to grab someone's attention, to direct them to the site where the stream is, and to pull them in as an audience. It is nothing different than television has always been, and broadcasting has always been. It takes PR, it takes promotion, it takes marketing. Turning them into it is the hardest thing. There is no easy way, except, sorry to say, but they fail once, and then they usually come and say, okay, what do we need to do?
Interesting.
But broadcasts are about acquisition of audiences. And what live does is it really does help you to acquire a larger audience, and sometimes an audience that you didn't expect was going to participate. So that there are some moments where you're surprised, and I think broadcasters are getting more sophisticated, obviously, about how they can capture, to your point, the imagination and the excitement that these audiences want, and live can do that in ways that other mediums.
I mean, consider the fact that with traditional broadcasting, I mean, the audience development angle has never been more open as it is with digital video, right? So even as a traditional broadcaster, it was very, I think that a lot of people for many years have been very talented at producing live video that they were streaming to television. And now that there's active audience development that can actually bring people on in the course of that 30-minute or 1 hour segment that you're on, I think it's huge. You know, to tap into your point earlier about teaching broadcasters to be marketers, you know, one of our largest clients, two of our largest clients are actually Red Bull and the UFC. The Red Bull is prolific at creating video on their own site and using social video channels like Facebook Live or Periscope or Twitter to bring people over into a subscription model. But even the UFC, you take, and we did this one for UFC 205 in New York, where they took their premium pay-per-view video, ran it through the Live API on Facebook, and Del Mondo, we're actually measuring average minute audience for digital live streaming video. And the measurement that we had was a 65,000 AMA, which was only 20,000 less than what Watch ESPN had kind of considered as their highest ever men's basketball stream kind of a week later. So when you think about, okay, great, there's a whole team at UFC that knows how to make an amazing broadcast, which they did, then there needs to be a whole audience development team that can figure out how to get people onto that stream. And now it can be done more actively than ever before, whereas I couldn't be sitting in that control room on Saturday Night Live before, like shooting out Facebook messages, putting out extra tweets to bring people back into the broadcast. Like that dynamic never existed before up until about like 5 years ago.
Unpack that for me for a sec. You talked about average minute audience. Just so everybody else knows what that is, please unpack that. And then what did you just say that you were able to get 3 times more than ESPN's big broadcast?
Well, yeah. Let me back that up for a second. So Del Mondo essentially gets real-time data from all of the social platforms. So we get real-time authenticated data from Facebook, from Twitter, from Instagram, from YouTube, and we pull all of that back inside of there. Now we've created the average minute audience, which is, you know, if some of you are familiar with some of the Nielsen type metrics, it's a metric that might be used to rate a television show. Basically says how many average viewers are on the stream for any 60-second interval. Now in the UFC example, right, we think about television and there's obviously large numbers of people. Nielsen has largely used sample size data for that. when you actually get all of the authenticated viewers, you can get a way better window into the viewing audience.
Yeah.
And so for the ESPN kind of comparison, ESPN 1 week after UFC 205 made a ESPN MediaCom's announcement that their largest ever audience for men's college basketball through the Watch ESPN platform was, I think, an 80,000 AMA. We measured 1 week earlier for just over an hour-long Facebook Live broadcast that was professionally piped in. We had a 65,000 AMA. So now, obviously, there's much larger scale when you think about the user base of a Facebook compared to a Watch ESPN.
Sure.
But people don't go to Facebook per se to sit down and have a viewing experience. We think about it mobile consumption or pick it up and put it down. These people were actively sitting on the stream. They were watching it for an entire broadcast, just as they would be turning on Fox Sports or any one of these networks as well. So I think that when we're looking at the different types of data for the media partners on Facebook especially, we're looking at other numbers in terms of not just the views, we are looking at watch time. And so, we see that live broadcasts even today, there's a 4x longer watch time for a live broadcast than any regular video on these platforms. So live also captivates the attention in terms of just physical time that we spend on some of these platforms too.
Interesting. I want to open up to the rest of the panel and ask them about the measurement aspect. What are you guys seeing in terms of measurement, right? From a branded entertainment perspective, someone might come to you and say, hey, I want to do this, but what kind of measurement are they putting on it, Aaron?
So, we've used live in a number of different ways. We've produced television series. We produced a series called Versus and Flow, where when we added the live component, and by the way, it's not just about plugging it in and putting on the signal and then hoping people discover it. It really is, to your point, you have to go out and promote it, and you have to make sure that people understand they're going to get a different type of experience than just being there, right? So what we've seen, quite frankly, is that in season 4 and season 5, when we were producing the show, we saw an extra 1 million viewers because of the live component that we did. So it clearly has a tremendous impact on bringing in more viewers. When we did a special, a 90-minute special on the same series, we had more viewers watching it live than actually watching it in the broadcast.
Really?
So it has some very real opportunities for us to expand. And to your point, it really is about scalability, and it's about bringing in new consumers and quite frankly, consumers who are passionate about the brand but just physically can't get there. So we've seen some tremendous results, and we'll continue to do it. It has to be strategic. It's not that everything should be live necessarily. So you really do have to think about the events that you're doing and what component that a live moment will add to that. But we're seeing really amazing results.
Interesting. Greg, what are you seeing? I mean, you guys are the platform. What are your clients seeing?
Exactly.
Hi, this is Ryan Salazar. We're in Central Hall at the GoPro booth. We have Nicole Bonk with GoPro. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. So what are you showing here at NAB?
We're showing the GoPro Karma drone here at NAB. This is the full ecosystem that you see right here. The nice thing about this guy is the arms fold up. The landing gear folds in just like so. It fits right in this awesome case just like this with the props on. Controller just like this, and the grip, stabilizer, all the batteries right in this case that it comes with for $1,100. The really nice thing about this is it's kind of like your land, air, and sea. So your stabilizer is actually removable. So you unlock that, pull out the stabilizer, put it in your handheld grip, and now you have handheld stabilized footage, which is super cool. And then your sea, you can take this camera out, and you can go in the water with it.
Well, that's quite awesome. GoPro has revolutionized, small cameras for broadcast and production and consumers as well, too. So what does it mean for you guys to be at a show like this, to be integrated with broadcasters and production folks?
It's actually awesome. It kind of gives them the idea that they can use these drones to capture aerial footage, and it's super easy, nice and compact. So typically a lot of people are kind of afraid to use these drones to capture the footage in the air, especially for broadcasting. And with this, it allows them to have this easeability of compact, take it out, oh, here's the drone, here's the camera, here's the handheld controller with the screen in itself, and it's just a take up and go really quickly, and it's really nice.
Excellent. So what else are you guys featuring at the show?
Our whole Hero 5 lineup, the Omni with the VR Live, is a bunch of stuff, as well as new additional accessories.
Excellent. You know, you guys have quite a booth, and you guys have developed so many excellent products. You know, Central Hall's got a lot of cameras and the lights and all the gear and the trucks. I like the South Hall as well and North, and this is such good stuff. But how long have you been coming to NAB?
This is actually my first year here, kind of promoting the Karma. This is our biggest product, and we're really stoked about it to show everybody here.
That's excellent. So Chris, come here real quick. Just want to chat with you. So what do you do with GoPro?
I work on the communications team.
You do? Okay, cool. So talk a little bit about what your goals here are at NAB.
Yeah, we see ourselves as the ultimate storytelling solution. That's what Karma fits in as we like to call it Hollywood in a backpack. You're able to have the ultimate versatility with the 4K camera, whether you're shooting from the air, whether you're mounting that on a professional level stabilizer on your backpack or handheld with the Karma Grip. That's something that we're really highlighting today and this week at NAB. We're also talking about a lot of our VR solutions. So we have Color Software is one of our subsidiaries. Okay. They're the industry standard for stitching software in the VR industry. And they're showing off right now actually live broadcast stitching solution we call Live VR. So right up here, the Omni camera is actually broadcasting in live. If you were able to go around on the back side of this TV right here, you'll be able to see a live feed of that.
Oh, that's excellent.
So that's instant stitching in the computer as it's happening.
Got it. So if there's anybody that happens to be watching and maybe is in Vegas or maybe at the hotel watching, trying to get some more coverage of the show, if you're coming back, GoPro is in Central Hall, just right down the corner from the NAB Show Live studio. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Chris Clark and Nicole Bonk from GoPro. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your NAB.
Thanks. You too.
All right, back to the studio.
Ryan Salazar, I guess you got some good karma art. Hello, I'm Brian Sethurst, and we are broadcasting the NAB Show live from the Grand Lobby of Central Hall here at NAB Show 2017. This segment, we're going to talk about the rise of branded content and 360 advertising. Everybody's been talking about VR. It's huge buzz. The VR AR pavilion in North Hall is packed. I mean, jam-packed and fun-filled. And what's going to drive VR? What are the business models? Everybody always says, well, how are we going to pay for this? Are people going to pay for VR? There's different distribution systems. You have HTC Vive, you have Oculus, you have Samsung. Where is advertising going to go? How is content going to be funded? So fortunately for us and you, we have three experts today. We have Seth Sokolow, who is the VP of Strategic Partnerships from Virtual Sky. Am I correct in calling you guys an ad network for 360 and virtual content?
I think that's fair, yeah. Virtual reality ad network's good.
Excellent. And we have Sönke Kirchhoff here from Berlin. He is the CEO of InVR, but also a larger company that's a conglomerate of VR companies all around the world. It's called the Virtual Content Group that's helping to drive the industry forward. And one of my favorite producers in VR, and I can remember 2 years ago when I was chasing her down to meet her, and she was so busy and I was just a nobody. So this is Alethea Avramis, and she is a producer at Nokia. I knew you when you were at Specular Theory.
Yes.
And at the very beginning of the industry. So traditional industry, the traditional broadcast industry runs on advertising, unless you're a premium channel. We have a lot of platforms that are going on right now, and advertising, I'm just going to set this up, and you all can tell me if I'm right or wrong. You have Google and Daydream, and you have all of the YouTube advertising infrastructure that's in place there in the partner structure. Then you have Facebook over here. Both are doing 360. Last year, both raised their resolution so that 360 advertising could happen. But before we talk about 360, I'm going to start with you, Alethea. What the heck is the difference between 360 and virtual reality? Because people are using the terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
So can we clear that up before we get to Seth and how we make money at this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest difference is being able to have room scale in virtual reality, where you're able to actually have the sixth 6 degrees of freedom, where you can have the freedom to move around,
And you're
the
immersed.
space,
You're
and you're
actually-
fully immersed in it, and you're able to interact with the content. So for that, we're talking the HTC Vive, the Oculus Rift with the touch controllers, where you're able to actually physically interact with the content and move around within the space. Whereas 360 live action video, most of which I have produced, is what we would call passive content, where you're still immersed in it, but you're more of an observer.
You can actually have a 3D stereoscopic passive cinematic experience fully immersed.
Yes.
But then when you get down into 360, it's not necessarily stereoscopic, correct?
Correct.
And on Facebook and YouTube right now, it's not, I mean, you can click a little thing if you're in a cardboard, but advertisers, they're not putting their content into virtual reality yet, are they? Into like the headsets, the Oculus, the Vive?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly what we do.
So well, then I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah, we help virtual reality experience creators monetize their content by inserting 360 video ads at natural breaks in the content, frequently between levels of a game.
So you have a piece of content that actually shows that. So before we talk about creating branded content, can we well, we don't have it, I just heard.
We don't have it,
it was
okay.
working, then it wasn't working. Welcome to technology. So let's talk about the content, because your clients, I know Okia Studio has a lot of branded entertainment, and so could we talked in, well, gosh, we were just in France like a couple of weeks ago and we talked about that. When your clients come to you and they say, we want to do 360 advertising, do they know what they want?
For me, no.
Yeah.
I would say there are these and those, of course. There are some that are much more experienced, like car manufacturers working with virtual reality since a long time, but in different fields in advertising. So, but they have a feeling for what they can do with this medium, with this technology. But there are a lot still there who don't really know what they want, what can be done in virtual reality, and what's the market where they are heading for, right?
And so when they come, are they doing, Alethea, are they doing commercials? Are they doing narrative? Are they doing 30 seconds? Are they doing full narrative?
It depends on the client. I mean, I think right now we're still very much in an education stage, where brands really, they want to get involved. They want to access the space somehow, but they don't understand it. They don't know how. They don't know how to tell a story really in that medium. Yeah, a lot of the times, at least for me, we see brands that want to do something with a narrative. So maybe something a little longer than a traditional commercial would be. But I still very much believe that we are in an education stage. Whether or not we're working directly with a client, with a brand, or with an agency, I do see agencies really getting into the education space and working more closely with us so that they can communicate to the client exactly, like, you know, there's so many different goals and expectations in general, but especially now with 360 and VR content, that I think the educational part of it when you're beginning those discussions has become so much more important.
So, Seth, you've got to be able to measure success to sell advertising. Is there an ideal length? Like the difference is, are you doing 360 ads? Is it longer pieces of content? What's an ad unit in 360?
Yeah, so what we do are typically 20 to 30 second ad spots.
In 360?
In 360, yes.
Interesting. So those 20 to 30 seconds, you know, so there's a difference between advertising and branded content.
Correct.
Obviously, branded content will be a little longer, but the branded content people, yes, they're going to get a measurement from Facebook, I'm guessing, yes. They're going to get a measurement from YouTube, I'm guessing, yes. But the other platforms that you're going to be active in inside the headsets, are there metrics and measurements for that yet?
Yeah, there absolutely are. And I mean, I think you're hitting on an important point as well, which is there's a real difference between showing a 360 video and a flat experience like on Facebook, or even pan and scan on a mobile device, than when somebody's fully immersed. And you know, we've seen metrics like we actually ran a study together with Nielsen here at their lab in Las Vegas, and they found that looking at a 2D video, they exposed two panels scientifically to 2D videos and then 360 videos where they were fully immersed. And on every metric, as you might expect, when people were fully immersed, they were 8x more likely to recall the brand that they saw. They were 2x more likely to share the experience that they'd had with that brand's video than when they saw a flat video. So, I mean, those are just some of the metrics that we've measured already together with Nielsen. But to get straight to your question, yeah, there's something now called a look-through, the equivalent of a click-through, where if there's a hot spot on a 360 video ad, you can look at it and we can measure look-through. And there's also heat mapping, where you can see where people were looking during the play.
So, as a storyteller, I'm a VR producer as well. We've been talking a lot about heat mapping. Every segment I've done here, we've basically talked about heat mapping, and we've talked about, you'll be happy to hear this, you guys, we've talked about being able to heat map a rough cut so that we can actually make changes before we do the final release. But here's the thing. People, if you're inside an experience and I'm watching a narrative, I may be used to having my television experience interrupted with a commercial, but to have my narrative experience interrupted with a commercial where links are, you have B-roll, I get that. You have pre-roll and end roll. Where does that fit in, and how do you explain to content creators or the networks that have these applications, I guess my question is, how fast is this going to happen? How fast is this integration of 360 advertising, not monoscopic, not Facebook, but actually in headset? How fast is that going to happen?
Well, I mean, I want to be clear. Like, for starters, we started really on the gaming side of the world, right? So people are in games. We come from the mobile app development and mobile advertising space, and we saw very quickly on those platforms that people weren't going to pay for content. I think the same thing's going to happen on the VR space.
It's very interesting to watch the market develop. I mean, we all know, you can sell something for $1.99, but good luck. But if you have a major property and you want it distributed across every platform, then count it marketing material and pay it out of your marketing costs. And that's where our budgets are tending to come from with brands, is out of their marketing. But to have an ad unit, to have this, I guess my point, Seth, is, you're coming from gaming, there's well-established ad insertion things. There's even, the ability to slide in and slide out advertising on highways in games,
Sure, but I still think, we're breaking new ground in VR games. This hasn't been done before. We're learning in the process. We're constantly improving things, and we're starting to make inroads into the what you're talking about, which is actual live stream 360 content or narrative 360 entertainment content, and how we define the paradigms around inserting an ad when you're on what's a cliffhanger in a 360 video, right?
I mean, I'm looking at Sunka and Alethea, and I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm thinking, please don't do that to me. It's like, I understand we all want to get paid. I think, do we have Seth's piece now queued? I think I'm down. I'm trying. They're back there working on it. So when the clients come to you, Alethea, you said most of my work has been in 360, but when a client comes to you and it's branded content, are you telling them that this could be library content that could exist later on, and maybe they should consider a higher budget and shooting it in stereoscopic, and do they listen?
Definitely. I mean, we are always trying to encourage them to go a little bit bigger and think a little bit bigger and kind of reach beyond traditional marketing budgets. And again, like that education process, when we get an RFP or something like that is a really big part of it. Yeah.
Sunka, your experience with clients and trying to push them to the next level, because you said some of them are experienced in VR, so I'm guessing those people have enough education that it can kind of push them. But the people that are just coming in that don't know 360, don't know the formats, don't know what it costs. I mean, and frankly, not from YouTube, but there's been a lot of price gouging in this. A lot of agencies that are coming in and charging a bloody fortune with something that may or may not be usable. So I'm not quite sure how the advertising, is that making your job more difficult? Are you hearing horror stories that you then are you getting things you have to fix?
Basically, one of our first questions is to clients, do you know where you want to show it afterwards? Is it just for the point of sale, or is it for YouTube? Is it for Facebook? Or do you know the markets, or should we educate, as you say, a little bit on what's possible with your project, and then try to find the best solution or the best markets for the content in a way. Of course, a lot of brands are doing the stuff for or the projects for the point of sale firsthand that we work with.
So does that involve displays actually in the retail environment?
No, it means like they set up a small pop-up cinema or something, or like we did some driving experiences where you can sit in the car at the point of sale and have the feeling of having a test drive in there. Or other ones are car configuration tools, which are not that much entertainment project then. So it depends really on the project and on the client where you can go afterwards with the project.
So if someone is making a point of sale display, why wouldn't they, after they do that, why wouldn't they throw that to, say, an HTC in an ad or an experience, like a short ad, 30 seconds, and if you want more, download and then have the full experience inside a headset? Is that coming?
Well, we're already doing that in a very conscious way, because if you think about the experience, it's too bad we can't show the video, but I'll try to describe it. The experience, you were in a 360 game, right? You completed some action, and now your whole experience is being interrupted with an ad. And then we made the decision, we're not going to take you further out of the ad off to go download something, but we'll set a reminder for later that when you're outside of VR, okay, yeah, I was interested in that product, now I'm going to go to their website and get more information or download this experience, whatever it is.
You know how on YouTube the ads became, you have a limit, you can click beyond this ad in 3 seconds, and the agencies had to become really, really clever to catch your attention in that 3 seconds so that you would hang out to see what the result is. Is that going to happen to us as well?
We have that already as well. We have a skip button that you can look at. I believe it's after 7 seconds right now, and then you can get out of the ad if you don't want to watch it to the end.
Okay, 7 seconds. You're in VR. You don't want to watch it to the end. You're going to click out of it, and it's going to take you back into what you were watching. How disorienting might that be? I'm talking in headset. How disorienting might that be to the audience? Because we don't do quick cuts really well in VR.
Right, and I also think that there is an adjustment period where you put the headset on and you need to kind of like get a lay of the land,
Your
figure it out. It
acclimation
takes a
time.
few seconds anyway for your brain to kind of make that connection and communicate like, okay, here's where I am, and it takes some time. So
I feel like I'm putting Seth on the hot seat here, like it's 3 against 1. Storytellers.
I'm going to be the cutthroat advertising guy. What she just described, right? We all are deeply steeped in this field. But if your first experience putting on a headset and getting your bearings happens to be with a piece of branded content, you will probably remember that for the rest of your life.
Well, very good point.
And that is a huge opportunity for advertisers today.
If it's done well.
Right. And that's a good point you bring up too. One of the things that I say, again, I have a background in online advertising and mobile advertising. The difference between an online ad is that nobody clicks, a bad online ad, nobody clicks on it. A bad mobile ad, nobody taps on it. A bad VR ad will make you sick. So
it will also make the agency sick.
Yeah.
But the idea now that you have this cross-platform so you're able to deliver these ads to Magic Window in a phone, right?
Yes.
You're able to deliver it to Web VR. You're able to deliver it in headset. And there are other agencies. There aren't many. You don't have a lot of competitors, right?
We have a handful of competitors, yes.
So would you say that this is a business that's waiting for people to jump in? Will it become more competitive, or have you guys had the limited companies that are there now, do they have a better understanding in a green field?
Well, I think it's good to be early. There are also challenges early, and we've been talking about one, which is a big part of the challenge, right? I haven't found yet today a brand or an agency that really has a VR budget, right? They have an innovation budget, and you have to tap into the innovation budget. So first of all, it's getting the content created, and these guys are helping with that problem. But then, secondly, advertising, as you were saying earlier, it's all about metrics, right? And we're used to having huge audiences, being able to do incredible targeting to get down to exactly the audience that I want. There are maybe today across all platforms, my best estimate, maybe 5 million daily active users across the globe on all platforms of VR. And
you realize that's now on the permanent record.
Yeah, well, I'll take the heat for that. And then you start segmenting that audience, you get to very small numbers very quickly. So that's hard.
But you must be learning a lot, even though it's small numbers. You must be getting the feedback.
Absolutely.
And the question that becomes, is that feedback being shared with the storytellers, the actual people who are creating the ads? You talked about look-throughs.
Yeah.
Maybe shared with the agency. Is it being shared with the people who are actually creating the VR? Because agencies, now I'm going to take the heat for this one. Agencies aren't real good at VR. Am I correct in that?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, unless they're hiring or subcontracting to a company that actually has made a lot of mistakes ahead of time, mistakes that they might make that they're being saved. So are the storytellers getting that feedback? Because I can tell you that both these guests here would like to say, okay, we could use that feedback. It will make us better filmmakers. It will give us a greater understanding.
So, I mean, we share it as widely as possible, and we'd love to work with you guys. If you want to run an ad on our platform, we'll give you analytics to make your head spin.
Right. Is there any standards body for this right now? Is the Ad Bureau looking into this?
So the IAB has done some initial kind of straw man recommendations around what's done in this space. So yes, they're already working on it.
You know, if I said to you, how fast is this industry moving, Alethea, what's your response?
Oh, I mean, it's like it pivots every other week, I feel like. It's incredibly fast.
And from every angle, right? Technology, distribution, what's automated, what's not, new stitching technologies, new algorithms. Yesterday we had Gavin Miller on, and he told us what Adobe is up to in the future, which is stabilization in post, being able to pull up images from Adobe's library. So imagine any agency being able to tap into that stuff really quickly and make this happen. But is the industry actually moving too fast for us to get a grip and for this collaboration that we're talking about to happen?
Perhaps, yeah. It really depends on when you started working in that field, and it always needs some time to get yourself educated if you're going to a new medium or new formats in a way. So for people who are starting new right now, it will be pretty hard to keep the pace with all this new technology and so on. Huh?
It's steep, but what you're saying is for you, it's incremental.
In a way, yeah. But let me jump back to one point, because I want it must be there, the feedback tools for the storytellers and for the brands to get the information that people looked at. We discovered that when we built a tool for virtual reality cinemas that we use on festivals. We get the feedback data as well of where people looked at and how long they looked at the specific content. We used it for a completely different thing first, but then we realized this is pretty useful to tell the storytellers afterwards how their content worked and how many people looked at their content the full time, or if their clip perhaps was only watched half the time all the time because the storytelling didn't work. They appreciated it very much. So I think it's very helpful to have that tool on all platforms as well. Yeah.
We're running out of time. One last question. Is the 360 advertising we see on Facebook and YouTube and even websites now, they're just turning up everywhere, is that the gateway drug? Is that going to help consumers begin to adopt higher technology maybe in VR?
I mean, for us, it's great, and I think the answer is yes, because that gets the advertisers starting to create content for those platforms. And as I was saying earlier, that's typically viewed on a flat screen and doesn't have any of the same kind of impact as when it's viewed within a headset. So, by that content being created, it provides us with content that we can run on our platform and really wow users with the true power of 360 video.
Would you, Alethea, go back to your clients? OK Studio has some pretty hot brands. That Gaultier, Jean-Paul Gaultier piece is quite hot.
Yeah.
Would you guys go back to the people that you already have relationships with and offer, rather than the agencies, go direct back and say, let us do a 360 30-second ad for you? Would that be something that, and how would you explain to them the value of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the amount of time since we produced that to where we are now, though, I think the brands are a little more savvy, especially if they've already taken that plunge and created a piece of content that is immersive. So I think you already have opened that conversation, and you've already kind of opened that door to where they can see the value in accessing that. So that is always the first step, I think, with working with brands and clients in that advertising space is getting them to kind of see what it can do for them. And again, I have to say that this hasn't come up yet, but it's so important for brands to actually experience VR or 360 content, to actually put a headset on. There's so many
we have
agencies or people we come across,
and
that
said,
haven't
watch as much
actually
as
seen
possible.
it. Yeah, like you usually have an evangelist or someone within a company, whether it's an agency or a brand, who's kind of spearheading this whole movement and convincing the rest of the team. So sometimes it's a matter of sending something to their office, sending 5 preloaded headsets to their office just so they can see it, because seeing is believing, I think, more than anything right now.
Well, and managing, after you do that, managing expectations, because they're going to see great content or they're going to see bad content. You know, sometimes we send links, like I just sent a list of links for a client to look at because they most closely reflect what needs to be done for them. But if they see bad VR, they might not even want to play. And to have the same effect, you talk about acclimation, to have the same effect in 30 seconds that you might get in 2 minutes, I think that's incumbent upon them, Seth, to actually begin to learn how to work in that medium. It's like writing a commercial jingle as opposed to writing a symphony. You know, you got that compressed time. I want to thank you all for being here today. It's a tough topic because it's moving so fast. It's a moving target. It's brand new. I mean, we met in San Francisco and I said, you need to come to NAB for me. You need to come and talk about this. Where can people go to see what you wanted us to see today?
You can go to our website, virtualsky.com. So that's probably the best place. And, you know, again, challenge is you're going to be looking at 360 on a 2D screen. So the best thing really would be
get yourself a headset.
Yeah, download some of the Google Cardboard apps that are running our ads, and then you'll really get the experience.
Excellent. And where can people find your work?
Either on www.invr.space or on Google Virtual Content Group, you will find there, and of course in some of the stores. Yeah.
It's same in some of the stores, and then if you go to okiostudio.com, you can see examples of our work.
Great. Thank you all for being here today. I hope you're having a great NAB experience. If you haven't been over to the AR VR Pavilion yet, hightail it over there. It's pretty crowded, but you can get to see stuff. So you're watching NAB Show Live, and now I'm going to throw to my boss, Ryan Salazar.
Jack starts right now.
We get him first. Hey. Hi, this is Ryan Salazar with NAB Show Live, and we're in Central Hall with my good friend Steve DeFalla. How you doing?
It wouldn't be NAB without a date with you, buddy.
Yeah, so we literally have our yearly anniversary at NAB Show on camera in one of your trucks, and I will only talk with Steve DeFalla of Accelerated Media Technologies.
I appreciate that, man. You are one of a kind.
All right, so I can't help but sit in here. It's a truck of toys. Let's talk about what's going on in here.
Well, this truck is fully loaded. It has everything in it. It has our LTE system. It has satellite. It's got everything you do to make news today the right way. And what we do with this truck is this truck now, with our new LTE system, is an extension of your studio. So everything you can do in-house, I can do in this truck. This truck is now a fully IP-capable vehicle.
That's excellent. All right, so we're going to talk about some other stuff that you're doing. We're literally going to walk across the booth here in Central Hall on nabshow.com and broadcastbeat.com. Here we go. So at Genesis Studio, let's talk about that.
This is our brainchild. This is a fully compliant LTE 3GPP LTE system that's licensed in the BAS band. It is the only system that has Part 74 certification and is fully legalized to use. We have our own emission designators. This is truly pulling your studio into your truck. Anything you want to do in the truck, anything you want to do in the studio, you can do out in the truck. Fully edit files, file transfers, double, triple, quadruple videos, multiple signals on a single channel. That's what we're all about. This is the future LTE EN Genesis, LTE for ENG.
All right, so and back to the trucks just a little bit, because I love what you guys do. Absolutely. So I'll just show right here, Mike, if you could just get this a little bit. So this is one of their trucks outside, I assume.
Yes, that's our live feed coming in from outside.
All right, so aside from them having technology, these guys, and you know this phrase that you say, you're like, we could chop, cut, whatever. What's that phrase?
We could chop it, we can stretch it, we can pull it, we can make it work for you.
There we go. I hear that every year. So it's awesome that you guys have partnerships with the manufacturers where they keep their warranties.
Any vehicle modification, we generally cut the tops off of roofs. Actually, if you get around to the outside booth, there's a Nissan that we cut the rooftop off and we extended the roof without having to be this long, tall, ugly truck. Now you have actually a nice sleek Nissan that you can use. You have your 8 cylinders, you have all your power, and the truck doesn't look, stupid.
Right. So what does a show like this mean to you guys as an exhibitor? I mean, you have broadcast engineers, you have people from all over the world in the broadcast productions, every little facet of our industry.
Well, this show is how we build our year It really is. I mean, this show, I'll use the momentum from this show to get me all the way to next year's show. I set up most of my business here, a good 70%. So it's important not only to make a good impression, but to have a quality product that works. And to stand here and tell everybody I have a product that I have customers with, that they're using, that they're qualified, they love the way it works. It's making their operations cheaper. It's making them expand what they can do. They can increase their POV coverage. And they come, and I'm seeing customers here now with this new system, not just potential customers, but customers coming back and saying, I need more. What else you have for me? What can you do? It's very gratifying. I spent a lot of time on this. I'm very proud.
Excellent. So anybody that's interested in finding out how to contact Accelerated Media Technology, you have a website? Or?
We have two well, the acceleratedmt.com is really for the trucks, but now if you contact LTE for ENG.com, that'll get you right to the LTE site, and we can start putting together systems for you there. There's all kinds of videos, there's clips, there's information on how to use LTE in a private channel for you.
Excellent. So again, they have this technology. They build the trucks. They put the equipment in the trucks. They ship it to the stations, ready to rock. And I've seen you guys at NAB Show New York and here, and it's like a reunion every year. It's awesome. So again, Steve DeFala, Accelerated Media Technologies. I'm going to see you at the 2018. Actually, I'll see you at NAB Show New York.
Actually, October this year, not November.
Exactly, October. I won't be late. And then NAB Show 2018. That's amazing. All right, why don't you pass it back to the studio?
Back to the studio with Ryan and friends. See you later.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast BB.
Welcome back. You're watching NAB Show Live from the Grand Lobby of Central Hall of the Las Vegas Convention Center at NAB Show 2017. We have had a jam-packed and fun-filled time. My name is Brian Sethurst, and I am Chief Storyteller for Storytech Immersive. I was supposed to say that every time I open, and I have forgotten to do that. And today's guest, right now, we're actually going to be talking about AR, augmented reality. So augmented reality, I'm a VR guy, but augmented reality is when, actually I should ask our guest what augmented reality is. That'll make it easier. So let me do that, because I can sit here and talk about it, but it's better to have you talk about it. So we have the lovely, and we just got to meet yesterday, it was so exciting for me, the lovely Rosario Ballesteros Casas. Did I get it right?
Thank you, Brian.
Oh,
yes.
from America's VR.
Perfect.
Good for me. And we have Andrew Couch, much easier to say, from Candy Lab.
Not nearly as beautiful of a name, though.
Yeah. No, but it's easy. So, and you've got great socks on. So,
thank you.
Yes, every little detail counts in technology, as you know.
Absolutely.
So, Rosario, I'm going to ask you first because, we don't, everybody, when you say what's augmented reality, you have people talking about, oh, it's the helmet that you put on. Oh, it's the heads-up display in your car. Oh, it's on your phone. What is augmented reality?
Well, I will say that this is an immersive technology, an immersive tool to play with your brain. Reality is built inside the brain. And augmented reality is one of those technologies allowing you to play, to have another filter, to interact with the real world.
So, Andrew from Candy Lab, your turn.
Absolutely. So, augmented reality, right? In its most common state, it's to add to, or to place something there between you and what you're looking at that didn't exist before. It's to augment your perception. Now, with the technology, it's turning on the camera on your phone, and it's taking content like, who's familiar with Pokemon Go or Texas Rope'em? 2 location-based augmented reality apps. Those particular applications, when you get near a GPS location, the camera turns on. It starts to listen to the sensors inside of the device, like the gyroscope. It starts to listen to the compass heading. And using all of those data inputs, you can make an experience that makes people feel like they're playing the game Mario and Luigi, and they're going around their city collecting coins as if you are Mario and Luigi. Clever marketers, especially those behind the Pokemon title, and like ourselves with Texas Rope'em, you can use that for marketing to move people to certain touch points around a city. But that's our definition of AR. We've been doing this since about 2010, really before the AR scene kicked up, and we really kind of explained it a little differently, I think, than where the industry is saying now. And it's more of just this magical viewing window into this underworld that you're able to see content through. It's pretty much the way I've been explaining it for the past few years.
There is so much information that is already in databases. I mean, you can go around and take pictures and send them to Google, or to Yelp, and all of this becomes part. You can, with Field Trip, which I don't even know if it still exists, which was Android, you type information. People don't realize that a game called Ingress actually preceded Pokemon, which was using all of Google's information that it had gathered on locations. So it's great to play a game, it's great for marketing, but you went deep right away. You talked about the brain right away. How can augmented reality serve us in our lives? Not just have a good time, Andrew, I'm not diminishing that at all.
Oh yeah.
But how can it serve us in our everyday life, and what can we expect from it?
Well, from our perspective, we are using it to allow the people to learn quicker for workforce development. We are helping the people to learn to trick their brain using first virtual reality content to approach, to learn, and then going with augmented reality tools to interact with the equipment in some difficult environments.
So let's talk, like nuclear environments.
Like energy.
Like energy. So let me talk about medicine for a moment.
Yeah.
So in medicine, in training, because you hear now about virtual reality being used in training, is it possible that augmented reality will find its place in the operating room, where a doctor could voice call for something, either a record or a picture or guidance or something that he might not have seen before, that the camera will recognize and be able to pull up guidance for that?
Yeah, so I can actually take this one. So this is actually being fielded right now with some hospitals. More, this kind of term mixed reality is being kicked around, where they're actually placing a headset on their head, and other surgeons around the world are able to tune in, view what that surgeon is viewing with the scalpel, and through audio can communicate to the surgeon, giving them tips and instructions on how to better get through that operation. While not necessarily happening on a mobile phone, but the surgeons, like I said, are placing on headwear, able to see the patient and then seeing overlaid content that's being slipped in right now that shows the differences between maybe a vein or a muscle or where the incision mark should be. I think within the next probably 2 or 3 years, we're going to start seeing companies like Kaiser Permanente and other groups like this not just experimenting with it, but actually deploying it in the real world. And I actually feel it's going to happen in underdeveloped countries, so that the up-and-coming surgeons can have some of the best and brightest minds in the world that are familiar with those types of surgeries to kind of help aid along. And
for telemedicine, it will be very useful.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super amazing. And to kind of get back to AR, for those that are just joining, you asked what augmented reality is, right? And the textbook definition, which is what we probably should have given you, it's a live, indirect view of the real-world environment whose elements are augmented, right, by computer sensory input, such as sound, audio, visuals, or GPS data.
So, magically, HoloLens, you hear about these things, and actually they've all been in development. You know, so you get the dev kit for, not for Magic Leap, but you get the dev kit for HoloLens. And what are the devices that consumers can expect? I mean, I realize we did talk briefly about a heads-up display in a car that's going to give you augmented information to the environment you're in and maybe guide you. But is it more, are enterprise applications in medicine, engineering, are those things going to come before the consumer stuff comes?
Well, let's look at spectacle, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, you look at spectacle.
I would love
I'm not
for my
buying
colleague
those
to
things.
take this one away. I think maybe you could share the spectacle. I think you know probably just as much.
This is
I think
Snapchat.
but also I think it's not comfortable to do many things with big helmets or things. Then I think that hardware technology must evolve to have something that is not uncomfortable for the one who is using it in the industry. You can't be distracted touching your helmet and doing things. Then there must be solutions that are more practical. Also, your mobile could be one of these hardware devices that you can use for this.
In terms of the sustainability of an industry, you know, you look at virtual reality, keep going back to virtual reality because it is what I know, and I don't doubt that mixed reality will be something I will be working in as a storyteller. But let me set entertainment aside for a moment. In virtual reality, a lot of the money is being made in enterprise applications and in research applications within virtual reality. And therefore, there's a lot being learned. I'm not on the enterprise side, but there is a lot being learned on the enterprise side that will bleed over. And because VR is sustained across multiple verticals, not just entertainment. AR also sustained across multiple verticals, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And something really interesting is that augmented reality will be very well connected with other technologies that are running, like sensors, all kind of sensors, data coming from
so
different
augmented
sources.
reality is the logical extension of the Internet of Things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you want to pull any information up, obviously we're not implanting things in our eyes yet. Yet. But obviously, you know, like right now on my phone, I have to really work to get the temperature of my house. I got to pull up the application. But is there a human interface that is worked on now? You said voice cues, sound cues, that is just automatically, you call for it, or you ask if your home is secure, and instead of having to look at your phone, maybe it's in your sunglasses, or maybe it's something that you always wear, or maybe it's wearable here.
Yeah.
Companies like Dropcam, is that where we are now? Dropcam, is that what it's still called? What if they were to partner, say, with like an Insta360 or like a spherical video capturing device, and where all the Dropcam units are, it's spherical, and the only way to view that really would to have like a Google Cardboard or some sort of like VR headset. Now when you call upon your ADT security or your drop cams at home, you can view your entire property in virtual
you're talking
reality.
about Nest, the Nest drop
Yeah,
cam.
the Nest drop, so they could update that with like with a spherical camera, right? Well, now when we want to call upon our home to see, you know, what's going on, instead of just listening to green light, red light, closed, open, or just doing a straight-on view where we're looking left and right, controlling it, well, put on the headset, and as we move around, since it's already filming 360, well, we are just viewing it on this end, and that's where your point comes to play.
Would then that picture be vector-based, so that different information, so if you happen to glance at your thermostat, then that thermostat reading would come up?
Well, that's what my colleague was just saying, is that it's the interface to view, where now if you see the thermostat, because it's at a known access point in the home, you can simply reach out and touch and engage with this information, or simply cycle through, and yeah, you can absolutely control the temperature in your home that way, while afar. Just because the data already exists, the processes already exist, it's just how you're viewing it is just very different than how we're viewing the content now. But the data's still there, the APIs are still there.
Also, price is a factor there.
Absolutely, good point
Price
on that.
is a thing there.
Well, you know what? I mean, my house is like completely, literally, I walk in the door and it's all voice controlled now, and it's a lot of fun. You know, unless she gives me a hard time and didn't hear me, and then I have to repeat myself, which I hate doing.
You set her on the human mode, right?
Then you're out of here. So, but just to supplement what you just said, Rodney Grubbs from NASA is actually going to be a guest over in the ARV, and Rodney in the ARVR theater, and Rodney said that the plan is for NASA to switch to 360 cameras on every space vehicle, so there's no more tilt and pan.
They've been working on that for a while. I remember back in 2012 at AWE up in Santa Clara, Tom Soderstrom, at the time the CTO CIO, I remember, was talking about NASA really wanting to not just move forward with that technology of 360, but to actually own it and push it forward for the astronauts so that they could view the shuttle in great detail on spacewalks, and to give the astronauts more of a hands-free experience to view information around them, that the guys down on the ground could say, hey, grab this wrench, follow the pattern, and start to turn it on the side of the spacecraft. And they said that they can make it a much more smooth process. I'm really excited
it's like
for them.
Science fiction, science fact.
No, also for training, they are using these tools. There is also a Latin American woman in charge of that training thing. Yes, Evelyn Miralles.
Excellent.
Nice.
So,
what was her name?
Evelyn.
Evelyn. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you need to talk after we're done broadcasting.
Sure.
Clearly,
It's a small community.
the two of you need to talk. I want to talk about escorting clients into this world. They come to you, maybe they don't know anything, and you know, we're all, I mean, in the VR side, we're hacking constantly. We're hacking cameras to make them work, to get to serve what we need to serve, and then we share that information with the camera maker. It's just how things are evolving. How do you escort clients into the world of augmented reality?
Well, definitely we are approaching them. They are not usually looking for this yet.
So
We
you
are the
have to
ones
be
looking
proactive
for
in your
them,
sales.
Yes, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And POCs, the proof of concepts, are a thing in this industry.
I agree.
I mean, we need to go with them. We need to show how it works. We need to show them the advantages of using these technologies in price, in security, reducing different risks. In our case, for some industries, even people is dying in some industries when they are starting to be trained because of their inexperience, and we are avoiding this. We are saving lives.
Do you think it's possible in like the near future that you would have to be this you'd have to have this technology, say on an oil rig or in a hospital, to be certified, to be safety certified?
I think so. Yes, for sure.
I also agree, and to take it a step further, if you're the supervisor in charge of making sure that your employees are going to certain site areas, going through the checklist, making sure that the machinery is working, I know that the big brother term is kind of thrown around where cameras are able to view, but what if you also gave access to the end user, the employee himself, to have a better visual representation of what they need to do at certain areas around the oil rig, while that supervisor at that level is also able to kind of spot check what's going on.
Because you have to be able to empower people on the front line.
You have to.
I mean, even right to the United Airlines debacle. It's like, how do you empower people on the front line to be educated enough to make decisions? And if they don't have the information that they need in their head, you're going to give it to them.
And the supervisor knows the employee is going to see what they see, exactly how they see it. So communication will be much more seamless and streamlined.
No, but also you can track the analytics behind that. What is each person doing? How is it doing it?
Yep.
What is needed to improve?
I would think, it kind of reminds me of UPS monitoring their drivers now. They're able to know, because of the truck inventory and things coming in and out, they know everything that's going on. They know where the driver is. It makes it more efficient. But in this, they need efficiency to maximize delivery time and all that stuff. But you're talking about life dependency and things that save people's lives, whether it's nuclear power, or whether it's an oil rig, or whether it's in a hospital. I want to talk about retail for a second.
Well, that's your expertise also.
I love retail.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So here's something we've noticed in the retail space. These retailers, they are innovating. They're trying new things. We know because we go and talk to the agencies that represent them. And post Pokemon Go, what's really great about that particular title is that it's waking the agencies up, and they're starting to tell their customers downstream, hey, did you know if we make some kind of a game that's relevant to the area we're in, we can actually get these folks to go within about a meter of accuracy to your brick and mortar location. And to take it further, using beacons, which can replicate GPS locations indoors, could further carry the experience all the way to the cash register through one seamless transaction of capturing them outdoors with GPS and guiding them all the way into the cash register with a beacon. Put a game on top of it, people don't delete the game off their phone, and make it meaningful and useful. Now they're going to stop giving money to AdWords. They're going to stop giving money to other ineffective campaigns that they feel are the only way that they're able to drive traffic into their website. This technology lets them drive it right into their brick and mortar store. They control the action, they keep all the data, and they're able to control where they want to send people in real time. And that's something that has us real excited with AR, because every one of you here, about half of you on your phones, the other half over here not on your phones. Either way, all of you have your phones right now. How many headsets do we have out in the audience?
Well, that's a friction point.
And that's a friction point that we are very aware of. But we also know AR is the entryway into VR experiences. Like, we've been playing with it for enough to know AR is a great way to kind of get us in. And then we want to have that more of immersive experience. And that's where we find VR to be much more meaningful. And to take it further, about 6 months ago, we started to play around with portrait mode and landscape mode, where now we find this hybrid model being more successful than just the standalone AR and VR. And we're actually pretty excited because we're going to be unveiling something. It's going to be in a few states here in September that will have that hybrid model. And now think about giving touchpoint access on the phone while the consumer is out in town doing retail shopping. Now when they're back home, they take that same phone, they take that branded Google Cardboard, they put it in horizontal mode, and now they're at home having an experience that marketer wants them to have. So you get double use of the same app through the same device. And I feel that's where it's going to go. And we're going to be there in 6 months, I know, because we're going to be the first ones to publish it.
Andrew, you're like nuclear power. For good or for evil. I can't decide whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I can't decide as a consumer whether I want you to control my path.
Come play with this tech, and I guarantee you're going to love it.
Only if it... So here's the thing about technology. I'll make you a deal.
Okay, go.
If your technology, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just being your average consumer.
Sure.
If your technology actually has utility that I can't live without, I'll make any deal with you to have that technology as a part of my life.
So and thank you for saying that. So everything that you just said already exists right now. This is just the visual portion that lets you view that data differently in a more hands-free, easier way. those functions are already there. You just lay this visual representation on top of that, like my colleague was just saying a moment ago.
So Rosario, it's funny, I feel like we've got the retail side over here and the scientific side over here, and yet
she's the smart one.
You have to be able to balance the needs of humanity with privacy and people. If you have all this information, it's not going to be foolproof. What do we do about the psychology and the psychological ramifications, going back to deep brain stuff, psychological ramifications of reliance on this rather than what's already in here?
Well, that's a hard question. The point is, I really think that the world is going to be transparent, and not because of something different that everything can be accessed. I mean, if I'm receiving as a final user, as the benefit of giving my information and receiving the value of it, I will be giving it, for sure.
Yeah. I get that part, but the part I'm asking you is about the reliance, everybody's reliance, on information now that supplements our day. Like, I swear to you, GPS has made me stupid. It makes me lazy. I've come to rely on it when it's not there. In LA, we used to have Thomas guides. There used to be these big maps, and you would look up the address and you'd follow the Thomas guide. Now you don't have to do that. But you've come so to rely on this. It's like they're not teaching handwriting in school anymore because we're so reliant. What happens when the knowledge is so readily accessible that we don't have the knowledge or the training in here? And what if this fails us? I'm just saying, there's this technology for good or for evil. What's the dilemma? What's the moral dilemma?
Is big. I mean, we are calling this ethical.
That's it. Where's the moral, ethical? Yes.
Hacking. Because of course there is an ethical question here.
The big ethical question here.
How to use it for good. I mean, how to use all these technologies that are cheaper, are better now, are
in everyone's pockets.
Yeah.
Do you think people are going to take all that for granted and just give you their data because it just makes their life easier?
I mean, look at how our millennials are treating social media now, and look at how we treated it back in 2004, right?
And the difference between those two things?
Their adoption rate is much higher. I mean, there's one saying.
And yet, there's a backwash in the second wave of millennials that wants more privacy. So, I mean, there's a pendulum swinging here.
A really good point.
It is a good point, and it's difficult to say where the world will be going.
I mean, and look what just happened legislatively now. Cable companies can use your data for what? All this data that's coming, you're going to find out what I'm watching, where I'm going. I mean, we've yet to have a moral, ethical discussion on this stage that I have witnessed, so this is the first time. So I think that this is moving so fast that legislation actually, and we're not in a legislative environment right now. We're not even. It's all about freedom here, a different kind of freedom. So I'm not quite sure where we'll end up.
I can let you know, as one of the players in the space, if we feel that there's unfair and unjust legislation in front of us, we're going to take action, and we're going to do our absolute best to make sure that free speech and the ability to publish location-based AR apps has a nice, open, fair, balanced medium for all of us that want to get in on the action.
So, we've actually we've crossed the line here in discussion. We've moved from technology to moral consideration of technology because AR has the potential to integrate itself so deeply into our lives that we would not be able to live without it.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't want to bring our whole conversation down, but you have some things that have happened on Facebook in the last week.
Absolutely.
That have been a horrible consequence, maybe an unintended consequence of allowing people to stream and broadcast live. How do we anticipate the negative side of augmented reality? We don't have a lot of time to discuss this.
Yeah, sure. Well, just to give a quick reference, I'm sure we're all familiar here with Lake Park, Michigan, how they moved Pokemon out. So we took a stance on that officially last week.
And what was your stance?
We filed a suit. You can search Candy Lab Milwaukee right now. It hit the Associated Press on Friday. And we're now trying this in the federal courts to ensure that when game makers publish location-based AR apps, they're not going to deal with prior restraint, and they're not going to have to worry about their First Amendment right being violated.
There's that balance. You and I could get into quite a discussion.
Yep.
there's that balance. You want to protect certain environments. You want to protect. It's like
we want it to be fair too.
It's like 500 feet from
Fair.
schools, no smoking. I mean, that kind of thing. You want to be able to balance this. And what you're bringing up is that there's going to be quite a few moral and ethical dilemmas around this.
It is. It's not just around the corner. It's here right now.
Well,
and we're in this one together.
Andrew, I'm telling you, in the First Amendment right, you cannot screen fire in a theater. That is not a First Amendment right.
That is.
If there's not a fire.
Right. That's absolutely correct.
So where is fire in augmented reality?
So I'm at a radio station. I'm in terrestrial. I'm a DJ, and I'm running a promotion, and I want to send everyone to 4th and K Street, San Diego, at 3 o'clock. Don't be late, because only at 3 o'clock you're going to be able to participate in the activation. I gave you a suggestion with voice. When game makers publish location-based AR stops, they're simply providing a suggestion on a digital map, suggesting to go there. So we view that as the exact same freedom of speech that anyone else should be entitled to as well.
I'd love to know, Rosario, what you think about that.
Well, that's a nice thing. I mean, and I also think it is why it's worth it to have more people building this kind of tools, using this kind of platforms in different industries. Because, well, leaders, people leading this industry must be connecting the technology and the real world, but the human being also. I mean, the human participation.
You know, this is like, it's activated something within me because I'm very much for a civil society.
Same here.
And I get very concerned when there are things that could erode a civil society, where there are tools. It's like anything, like nuclear power. Again, Twitter for good, Twitter for evil.
Yep.
You know, and the question becomes, where should restrictions be? And the belief about augmented reality, there should be no restrictions or what that. This is going to be a really interesting thing to watch.
We're in for a long ride with this one, and we're very aware of that.
You know, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time. It makes your life easy, but there's a trade-off in here.
Sure.
Just like with any technology, self-driving cars, you know, what is the trade-off? The convenience versus the sacrifice
Same thing
that
with
you
Uber,
get?
same thing with Airbnb. You know, those innovators, they were the pioneers. They had to deal with not only innovating technology, getting users to adopt, but also to knock down those barriers, those legislative barriers that now seem to be a good move that they did. Because now, you know, I use Airbnb, I use Uber all the time.
It's because it made the industry more efficient.
It's
It
just
made them
changing. We're
respond.
evolving.
Yeah.
And
So-
you know, legislation doesn't evolve with tech, so we have to do both at the same time when you're at the front.
Exactly. We are, oh my God, sadly, we are out of time because this could go on. This has been one of the most fascinating discussions I've yet had on this stage. So, Andrew and Rosario, thank you so much for being here. This was like pretty exciting.
Thank you.
I would like to thank you guys for watching. You are watching NAB Show live from the Grand Lobby of Central Hall at NAB Show 2017. Thanks for watching.
Hi, this is Ryan Salazar on NABshow.com and BroadcastBeat.com, broadcasting for NAB Show Live. Today we have a very special guest. Tell us your name and what you do.
I'm Ali Amoli. I'm the director of our content creation and workflow solutions at Sony.
All right, great. So let's talk about what's behind us. It's the production data center.
This is. So this year at NAB, we've actually brought a data center to the show floor, and it powers many of the demonstrations at our booth. This is using commodity off-the-shelf hardware, so you'll see that there's a lot of Dell hardware here, there's a lot of off-the-shelf hardware, and this is all interconnected throughout the booth. And we also actually have a network connection all the way down to Culver City, the Sony Pictures Entertainment lot, where we have some of our remote switchers and processors there as well. And we have a news studio desk set up at our Culver City lot, where from Sony over here in Las Vegas, we can actually be taking the video feeds in Los Angeles using our IP Live technology, bringing them into the system that's over here behind us. We actually have the less than 8 millisecond latency. We can see all those video feeds over here in Vegas. We can have the Los Angeles location seeing all of our video feeds, and we could be doing switching and automation either here on the show floor, or we could be doing it down in Los Angeles. So one of our concepts from Sony is that we want to make sure that the creative operators always have access to whatever content that they need, no matter what their location is. And so the TD doesn't actually have to be in the same location as the content that's coming in. They don't even need to be in the same location as the switcher processor. We're trying to make everything pretty much location free. So we want to have the best talent, the best creative talent, have access to whether it's live streams, whether it's file-based workflows, We want them to be able to search and work with it and not have to worry about where's the processing, where's the talent, where's the content. It all seamlessly happens with a combination of our content and workflow technologies, our remote production technologies, and then also our IP live technologies.
Got it. So I'm going to switch back around so you can present this. So this is the Media Backbone Hive. Talk about that.
Media Backbone Hive is our award-winning end-to-end content production platform. So this allows content creators to take a number of sources, whether it's baseband feeds, IP feeds, files, whatever the content might be. It doesn't even have to be AV. It can be documents, PowerPoints. It manages it. It creates workflows that are streamlined. We're all about speed and performance here. We want to get as much content in, allow the creative people to find that content, work with it, and then send it to distribution, whether it's play to air, traditional linear broadcast, or social media networks or websites. This optimizes all of that, and it goes all the way through archive. It's built on an award-winning architecture, so we've actually created hyper-converged nodes with microservices using the latest IT technologies, and we've applied our media and entertainment expertise to provide this end-to-end workflow, and we've already won 5 industry awards just based on that architecture. Because of the flexibility and scalability of it, not only do we have the ability to grow with the customer on-premise, but we can also spin the microservices up in AWS, and so we're showing an integration where we have the capability for a customer as their needs grow to actually spin up services and content in AWS and again seamlessly work with it wherever the content is.
Yeah, and isn't it that amazing that nowadays you can literally turn up a server in like seconds or just a couple minutes? It's quite amazing, you know?
Absolutely. We've found that the cloud not only gives customers the ability to expand, but it also gives another level of resiliency in terms of disaster recovery. And Sony's been working in the cloud space for a number of years now. A number of years ago, we launched our C Media platform, which allows us to do cloud-based collaboration, review and approval, and a number of other capabilities, again, on top of AWS, but with a tool set that's set for media and entertainment.
Awesome. Again, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name again.
Ali.
Okay, Ali, this cough, this Las Vegas weather, right?
Oh, it's
all right. From the Sony booth in Central Hall, this is NAB Show Live. Back to the studio.